You have to keep innovating, and if you don't innovate, you get bored, and then your team get bored, and then your guests get bored. So I mean, that's utterly crucial. And all those cliches they say to you about hotels are true.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe. Today, I'm speaking to Jeremy Goring from the Goring Hotel in London's Belgravia. He is one of London's most well-known hoteliers from the last family-owned hotel in the UK. The Goring is famous for many things, but mainly because the royal family absolutely love it. The late Queen Mum used to have lunch there every week. Their restaurant has a Michelin Star, and Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, chose to stay there the night before her wedding to Prince William. Without further ado, here's Jeremy. So Jeremy, where are we speaking to you from? Are you in London?
Yes, I am.
And what's happening? How's the vibe there? Because in Sydney, we're currently in week 8 of lockdown and there's not much happening here at all.
The town is absolutely rocking. It's quite extraordinary.
People partying.
There are people on the streets. For example, Soho, which is a very large neighborhood, has been turned into one huge pedestrian zone. So you stand on any kind of street junction in Soho and you look in 4 directions, it's just a sea of people sitting down, having a nice dinner and having a nice aperitivo in the sunshine. Not today, but yesterday we had sunshine. And all the different areas of London, of which there's probably 20 or 30 kind of villages of London, if you will, just absolutely going off, and people having a good time. They're obviously spending a lot of money as well. I reckon by Christmas, this country will be bankrupt.
Is it like the 1920s? I mean, like we read about, the real partying all night and all that kind of thing?
Let's just call it a less well-dressed version of the 1920s.
How fantastic. And what are you up to? Have you been traveling at all personally this summer?
I've not been anywhere. We have had 3 reopenings here at the hotel. So, and then on each occasion we were told we had to shut again. So this is our 3rd one and we're 2.5 months in. So to a certain extent, it's been all hands on deck.
So how do you see next year? I mean, how do you see the future for London, for Europe, for you?
I mean, it's difficult because the world's in the grip of some really awful things. So for example, my Indian half brother, he's just gone back to India 3 days ago and they're having a very hard time in India.
Yes.
So what I don't want to do is say the world's going to bounce back next year and all of that stuff, because everyone's at a different stage. And us in the first world, so to speak, have basically hoarded all vaccines and helped ourselves. And in a way, it sort of ought to come back to bite us, because it's not really right. I mean, everyone in Britain is now vaccinated. There's nobody left to vaccinate. So COVID in Britain is over. But the worst thing we could do is just be smug poms about it, because obviously everywhere else in the world, they've either not been able to access the same as we've got, which is, bad, and we're not helping them enough. Or they've got the whole anti-vax sort of rather pathetic situation in certain places as well. So that is going to affect global travel big time. And I think travel is obviously quite expensive. I mean, just getting my children out of Australia has cost quite a lot of money.
And what is your fascination with Australia and Australians?
Well, I lived there for 10 years. So there you go. And I had two or three children there, forgetting how many, quite a few.
You married an Australian woman, right?
The whole works, absolutely. I got an Australian passport.
And where did you live when you were here?
I lived Manly, I lived Bronte, I lived North Curl, and I had a brief sojourn on the sunny coast.
Wow.
Do you know
is there anywhere you didn't live?
Sunny coast.
And
it was a long time.
And you worked at what was then the Observatory Hotel most of the time you were here, didn't you?
For the fabulous Belmont, who were then called the Orient Express. Beautiful hotel, amazing location. Had a lot of fun. I think Sydney was probably even more fun then, because it certainly wasn't an expensive town when I lived there.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous now.
It's a little bit now. Yes, it's more expensive than London now.
And when we did our research on you, we read that you really love Sydney pubs. Can you tell us some of the pubs that you used to frequent when you lived here?
That's a worry. I don't know where that comes from, but where did I go? I used to go to that. No, well, I just went to all the normal pubs, to be honest with you.
Around the Rocks area where you're working?
Yeah, well, I worked next to the Lord Nelson pub, which was fun.
Yeah.
We used to do outside catering there a lot, so I had to work at the pub. And I used to like all the pubs of Paddington and Surrey Hills, whatever they were. I can't even remember.
They're all still good when they're
I used
open.
to like the Iguana Bar where all the gangsters hung out in the Cross.
I
You
don't
go there and
think
play
they're anymore.
snooker till 3 a.m.
That was in the days when bars here opened. We can't really remember them, but yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. I have heard that Australia's become a bit of a police state. That's what all my Aussie friends tell me.
It's definitely a very difficult time to be in Australia. There's no two ways about that. And what made you leave? Obviously, it wasn't lockdown because you got out way before. You got the memo of what was coming.
It was a long time ago. I had done my time, and it was time for new adventures, and I really enjoyed it so much. And probably half of my best buddies from that time, many of them now live around Europe, and some still live back in Oz. So I could have done my time, and I kind of lied to everyone by saying I'm going to Australia for a career move, but actually I went there because I just wanted to go surfing a bit more often. But
you love surfing, don't you?
A good job. Well, these days my old back is giving up on me, and so the little kids are paddling for everything in sight, and I'm just going, and then they're just like popping up like, and then I'm just going, I'm lumbering about like a, it's nice being in the sea and looking at dolphins.
We have to go a long way from London to find some surf, let's be honest.
Yes, you do. I mean, it has some big downsides to it, this town. Full of people and far from the sea.
Yeah, but that's probably the only downsides, really. But look, you're the fourth generation of the Goring family to work in hotels. Was there any other career option for you?
Well, it never really crossed my mind to do anything else. So it's pathetic, really. I've done this since I was 15.
What was your first job?
I was a waiter in a hotel in the countryside when I was 15. Then I was a barman in a pub in the countryside in Brighton, actually in Hove, which is up the road from Brighton. The place has crumbled into the sea now, sadly. And then I did some schooly things, and then I went to work for Four Seasons, who were an epic company, and I was just the dodgy little trainee at Four Seasons
in London.
And then yeah.
And what did you learn there? I mean, what is the key to taking a hotel to the next level, like you have with the Goring Hotel?
So I think you just got to enjoy it and want to continually tinker, if that's the word. Definitely, as everybody will tell you, if you are not moving forward and doing new things every day, then you are definitely going backwards. So you have to rethink everything. Sorry, someone texted me. How rude of you. Don't you know I'm talking to Australia?
Exactly, so, miles away.
Good God.
You be arrested, Jeremy.
Keep innovating. You have to keep innovating, and if you don't innovate, you get bored, and then your team get bored, and then your guests get bored. So I mean, that's utterly crucial. And all those cliches they say to you about hotels are true. So when people say, "Oh man, you got to look after your staff," well, obviously you do. It's bloody obvious, isn't it? If your staff are not delighted, then your guests are not going to be delighted. It's very actually quite simple when you think about it, our business.
And how do you look after your staff, and how have you during this really difficult pandemic that you've been going through?
Well, I mean, we're kind of a small family. We're only 70 rooms, our hotel, with 2 little restaurants and a bar. So it means that the management team, which is me, Big Dave and Michael, you are able to actually know your team. And I've worked in some big old hotels when I worked for Rosewood, which is another wonderful company, and other people. And you might have more than one hotel. So getting to know everybody, is a process, whereas with us, it comes naturally. You see everybody every day. So, I mean, that enables you to know if someone isn't happy. You see someone's face and it's not a happy face. And it's either something we've done or it's something that's happened at that person's home life. So let's find out which of the two it is. And if it's the latter of the two, let's see whether we can get involved and help. And it's a natural process. If you have a big family, that's what happens naturally. And in a way, we do see our business as a big family. Our guests see it as a family as well. Good God, we've got some odd family members, I can tell you. You know, every family has a weird uncle. So we have hundreds of them, hundreds.
And of course, the most famous family who love the Goring are the royal family.
So I'm told, yes.
Did you work at the night Catherine stayed in the royal suite the night before the big wedding?
Well, it's brilliant because obviously our job's quite boring. You know, we chop onions, we clean the kitchen, we do night manager reports. You know, we sort of polish marble and polish glasses and all that stuff, lay tables, break tables down. And the only thing that people that don't do what we do find interesting about our business is our guests, particularly if they're well known or if they're Bill Clinton or a royal person. But of course, the only thing we're not allowed to talk to is our guests. We can talk about cornflakes and pork all day long without sort of getting into trouble, but we're never really allowed to talk about all that stuff.
I know, but it's
pathetic, isn't it?
It's a fact that she stayed there, and there are pictures of you when she arrived or left. I think it was when she arrived, and I did hear, and of course I'm an Aussie, so I may have got this wrong, but there's some kind of tunnel underneath the hotel leading secretly to Buckingham Palace just for the royals. But of course, you're not going to be able to answer that either.
No, I can answer that. That's bollocks.
Okay. But one thing that's certainly not a rumor and that's fact is that the Goring Hotel has a beautiful garden. Is it one of the biggest gardens of any hotel in London? Because it's pretty special.
Yeah. It's 3 times the size of the Wimbledon Centre Court. And currently it has my pony living in it, my Shetland Pony.
Now, what's the Shetland Pony doing in your garden, Jeremy? Oh, brilliant.
Oh. He's arriving. Daddy's coming home.
That's
Daddy's
hysterical.
Coming home.
It's hysterical. Another person who's got ties with Australia and who I believe that you have ties with is Rick Stein. Has he been there during the summer, or did that happen with the lockdown? Because I've lost track of, as you said, you've opened and closed a few times. Yeah,
we did a little pop-up restaurant with Rick and Jack and Charlie Stein.
Oh.
Just basically grilling lobsters on the backyard lawn all day long. It was brilliant.
Oh, how fantastic. Notwithstanding the pandemic, there's still restaurants, coming out of new restaurants launching.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm pleased to say that pretty much everywhere that was here before the shutdown is now open again. And there was
fantastic.
Obviously
so you haven't lost a lot of restaurants?
No, we really haven't. I can't think of a single restaurant that it was in my headspace, i.e. a place that I looked up to, that is not still there.
Gee, that's fantastic. That's a miracle, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say that the place is busier than ever, to be honest.
That's fantastic. I'm just reminded of that night we went out in Sydney and we went to Fire Door. Was that what it was called? Fire Door?
Yeah, what a great place.
Oh, that was amazing too.
Brilliant.
The heat coming off that.
It was like Dante's Inferno, wasn't it? Wherever you looked, there was a pile of burning logs.
And it was boiling hot that night. It was like fire on fire on fire.
I know. What a cool place. And the whole barbecue thing is obviously a global kind of massive, great movement at the moment. There's a thing in London that we've had for about 10 years now called Meat-topia. So sort of utopia, but for meat. But you'll get about 10 to 15 very well-known chefs, many of them with Michelin stars, and everyone has to barbecue something. Wow. And it's out in the London docks, the old Victorian docks. That's actually called Tobacco Docks. And you just go there. They have disc jockeys and obviously hipsters. So it's really, really cool. And it's like a good sort of breeding ground for that style of cuisine.
Fantastic. And I wanted to just get back, because you were talking about your staff taking on different roles. Is that because you had to let some staff go, or they left, or it was fantastic that they've stepped up, right?
Well, I mean, we've obviously shot ourselves here in the foot in Britain by deciding we didn't like our European neighbours anymore, and we wanted our freedom in inverted commas,
Brexit.
our freedom to spend more money on products, and our freedom that our children can no longer work freely around Europe. I don't know if that's freedom or not, but anyway. So, I mean, that has given us a kick in the teeth as well, because obviously, you know, hospitality, whatever way you want to look at it, it is a transient career. A career where you can work wherever you want in the world, and you have the power to go and work in bloody New York, LA, Beijing, wherever you want. So by us saying that we're going to take away people's working rights from Europe to come here and freely work has kicked us in the face big time. Because the bottom line is the youngster who's working in our business will do 1 or 2 years in a job and then move on somewhere else and gain some more experience, and then move on somewhere else, or go and do a ski season, or go and do a season on the beach, or whatever it is. And so you have this circulation, and we have decided we're going to put a stop in the pipes of our circulation. So everywhere around London is probably short-handed right now. It's a sort of an own goal, if you will. We've kicked it in the back of our own net.
And I imagine that wages would have gone up too, because, you know, when you've got foreigners coming in, certainly in Australia, we're feeling the pinch. Normally we have foreigners here, they're, you know, working in our restaurants. And of course we don't have any of them because they've all gone home. And, you know, the cost of restaurants, even though they're not even open properly at the moment, is much higher.
I would have thought so. I mean, Australia's always had that one really good thing, which is the awards. So every year you get the agreed salary bands that get agreed. I've always personally found that to be a really good thing. It's always made your kind of payroll costs in Australia much higher than pretty much anywhere on the planet.
Yes.
But conversely, it means that if you go to Australia and work in hospitality, you get paid enough money to have a pretty good life. So as a hospitality worker, I think that system is bloody awesome.
And tell us about your staff stepping into the different roles. You started to tell us before.
Well, I've been in the kitchen, and I thought I could cook because, you know, I cook a meal twice a week here at home. But when someone says, do me a brunoise of all of that, and you've got to turn it into 1 mil cubed pieces, but you've got 25 carrots that are this big, and you've got 10 minutes to do it in, that's where the time and quality equation doesn't quite add up if you're not really a proper pro.
Wow, it's an art,
for
right?
me, yeah, because the process is simple but accurate.
And what's your favourite role in the hotel? I'm sure you've worked in almost all of them at one stage or another.
Well, okay, sorry, vegans, but I like it when a whole animal arrives and we hack it to bits and turn it into food. So currently we're serving these Mangalitsa pigs, and the most happiest animal I've ever seen. I visited them on their farm. They're the fattest pigs on the planet. They have a layer of fat that thick around them. If you have bacon of a Mangalitsa, you've got that. I'm talking back bacon, not streaky. The back is like that plus that, as opposed to, you know, that plus that. But the flavor of that food, you can tell that animal had a very happy life. So that thing arrives, and chef and sous chef in particular, you know, we just do the job on it. It's brilliant. Wow. I like that.
And you're serving everything there, from pork to, you know, which is a relatively heavy dish, to seafood, you said, with Rick Stein. It's a very diverse menu, isn't it?
Obviously, when we have epic seafood here, we get our stuff straight off the boat in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So we can tell you what time it was caught, what gear was used to catch it, and the name of the boat that caught it.
Wow, that's what I call fresh.
Yeah. No, it's super fresh. Super fresh, actually.
And how do you see the future of travel, you know, in Europe?
Well, I've made 100 predictions this year, and I think 98 of them have been wrong. One of them was England were going to win the Euros. I don't even like football. But I really had this feeling, you know, it's like, you know what, everyone, I've really got this feeling that we're going to win it. Mm-hmm. And I was getting more and more right, and righter, and then we lost it. We lost it. I don't even like football.
It was so close. It was so close.
Yeah. And then I said, oh, nothing's going to change. And it's like, okay, you were wrong about that, weren't you? I do think this whole thing about working from home is a pile of bollocks, though. I don't know anyone who wants to work from home. And I certainly don't know any boss who is going to favour employees who can't be bothered to get out of bed and come in. So I think, but that sounds parochial, but I guess my issue is I'm in hospitality. I can't offer it, because I could offer it to half the team, but not the people that are doing the important thing, which is looking after the guests. So then we would be creating a sort of pirate ship with 2 levels, and that would always lead to a mutiny, as far as I could tell. So I'm very, obviously have my own sort of rather parochial, narrow-minded viewpoint on it.
No, but fair enough.
Workers want to come back in, from what I can experience, because I speak to people in all walks of life every day, because they're sitting in my bar or in my lounge or whatever, and they're just stoked to be back in town, seeing their colleagues, getting together. And those that were at home have really suffered from being at home in a slightly sort of unnatural environment. There we go. That was an order for pork came up on my WhatsApp, funnily enough, coincidentally.
ESP.
Yeah, I know. So I do think that people in general want to go back to normal, but we all want to maintain some of the benefits that we've discovered through all this process. Yes, we can do a Zoom meeting, and that is handy. If I didn't have to fly to New York next weekend and I can just do this, well, actually, I'd quite like to go to New York next weekend, if I'm honest.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Hang on a minute. I was about to get hypocritical there. But yeah, if we can learn some things from it, and I think that we have, and the need to travel, we don't need to travel. It's actually something that we want to do.
Yes.
But certainly with Mark Twain on this one, and I can't remember what it is. Anyone who knows the Mark Twain quote about travel, please pipe up. It's something like, the only people that have anything to fear from travel are narrow-minded people and bigots. And I think what he meant was, travel helps us understand the differences between us and how they're actually things in common. If you've never been to Australia, you might have a view on Australians, or you've never been to the States, you might have a view on Americans, and it might not be very positive until you go there and go, these people are great. And that's what Twain meant. And I think I agree with him.
100%. And tell us, speaking of travel, what's your favourite holiday destination or memory that you can share with us?
Oh, I think you're everywhere. There's not anywhere I've ever been that I haven't just been blown away.
Is there anywhere right now you're thinking, I'd just love to go there when I can?
Yes, I'd like to get back to Sumba, Indonesia, and just hang around. If I could, I'd go there for 3 months. They're having a terrible time with all of this, unfortunately. You know what? I would love to just go to Barbados and bugger around on the beach drinking rum punch. That would be really great.
So in London, can you travel to Europe fairly freely now?
It's just opening up.
Yeah.
And in fact, you can do it quarantine-free in both directions to most European countries now. And it costs you 10 quid each way.
Oh, hallelujah.
Which is I'm ashamed to tell you that, because obviously there are ethical problems with that to do with, pollution and all. But yes, you can fly both ways for 10 quid each way to France, Italy. It's great.
I'd love to go to Greece.
Bloody brilliant.
I'd love to go to Mykonos.
Yeah, I've never been to Greece. Greece is the word, it's got feeling.
It's so fantastic.
One thing people I know are keen to travel. So I speak to Americans all the time, because it's probably a third of our market here in London, in the 5-star market. And those guys have been sitting on money for 18 months and they want to spend it.
I bet they do.
And a lot of them want to go spend it on, they want to spend it on travel. So everyone I speak to there is talking of a massive bounce back. So we need it, because we've had to borrow millions to survive the last 18 months. When you've got a building that employs 200 people that's shut for a year and a half, you have to ask the bank to be nice to you. So we've got to pay that back, obviously. So we kind of need the bounce back badly.
Oh.
And that's certainly what everyone's talking about. But at the moment, it's sort of trickling through slowly. And I hope there will be a bounce back. But I hope we'll travel better as well. I hope that the cruise industry gets better regulated.
Yes.
So the whole world doesn't have a massive cruise ship parked outside it, for example, spurting out fumes.
Yes.
I think flying does need to become more expensive again, because that's not the most brilliant thing for the future of our children. And I hope we're going to learn, and I hope Jeff Bezos doesn't get much richer.
And where to from here? What's happening if you are in London? What's the plan at the hotel for Christmas this year? I mean, it'll be pretty special, won't it?
We do a very, very traditional Christmas at the G-Banger, actually, to be fair. We have a 70-foot Christmas tree in the garden. So everywhere you look, there's just Christmas tree lights. The lights around London are just mega, absolutely mega. Every kind of neighborhood has its own design. So you go Bond Street and you'll have a particular theme. Carnaby Street always has absolutely fascinating Christmas tree lights. Our Belgravia neck of the woods where we are always has something quite sort of posh but beautiful, if you know what I mean. Sloane Square, then they have their own deal too, which is great. So actually it's quite nice just to wander around and look in the shop window. Everyone makes massive effort in the shop windows as well. In fact, I have to judge the Belgravia shop Christmas shop decoration awards every year.
How gorgeous. And I'm hoping to speak to Jo Malone, who has her shop near you. Jo loves.
Yeah, she's literally, 30 seconds from the front door. She always does amazing shop front at Christmas. Her and Philip Tracy probably are in the front runners. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when you were touching on India and some philanthropic issues, the Passage, which is about 100 yards from the Goring Hotel, you've always had an involvement with each other. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So, yeah, absolutely. The Passage is London's biggest homeless shelter, homeless resource facility. And then with the Goring Hotel, we have a joint venture between the two of us called Hotel School. And Hotel School gets homeless people interested in hospitality, teaches them all the skills and gets them work. And then what we do is we chaperone people through their careers in hospitality. And we've been doing it since 2017, so it's been 4 years now. We're on our 12th cohort at the moment. We do cohorts of 12. It's a 3-month program followed by several years of what you might call kind of career chaperone. It works because I think hospitality, unlike almost any job you can do, anybody can do it. You know, not anyone has the nuts to be a builder. Not anyone has the skill to be a carpenter. Not anyone has the brain to be in finance or banking or accountancy. Whereas hospitality, you can be a waiter, a cook, a kitchen porter, a housekeeper, a manager, an IT person, an accountant, you name it. And as a result, our industry can take a very broad range of people's skills. We can take people that don't speak a word of English, for example, and they can learn English while doing something and then move into another area within a hotel. So
and you founded the hotel school, yeah, yourself?
Yeah, myself and Mick, basically. And Mick is the chief executive down at the Passage. Basically, when you join our school, you never leave. So once you've left, you're still a member. It's like being in a membership club. Unfortunately, it does go wrong for some people, and for others, others will just sail through life thereafter. But we've got people that haven't worked for over 30 years, who've now been in employment for like 2 years solid, who've graduated from the school. You need a bit of help, obviously, once you leave. But yeah, it's a very interesting program. We've got a new cohort starting. Every cohort's completely different. But the people in London hospitality have really embraced it. We have more than 100 volunteers who are people that work in hotels and restaurants around London, who just give their time for free, don't even ask any questions. They'll come and teach you mixology, or they'll chaperone or mentor somebody, or they'll come and teach you cooking, or they'll come and do a communications course or whatever. They'll come and help you with your CV, and everyone works for free, which is great.
And they call it, I mean, publications have called it the light at the end of the tunnel. Do you think there's going to be a lot more people needing that support from you going forward?
Well, what there is now, which is good news for Hotel School, is thousands upon thousands of vacancies around London and around the UK. It's actually global. I was on a conference call the other day with all the GMs of all the other guys. So the VP of Four Seasons, the Amman guy, the ops director at Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the one theme around that whole bloody video conference thing was everyone has hundreds of vacancies in every 5-star hotel anywhere on the planet. Wow. except for a few interesting cases where they're still in lockdown and everything else. So Macau went into lockdown again recently, for example. But so this human resources crisis, actually, to be fair, is a global thing. I just thought it was a British thing because we left the EU, but it's it's a global thing connected with coming out of the pandemic and people getting used to working from home and reevaluating their lives and deciding they're going to maybe take a pause. But yes, it's a big issue, but it helps hotel school because it means there's about 100 jobs for every graduate that we have.
Wow, isn't that fantastic?
It helps us shooing our graduates into work. Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, Jeremy, you're certainly someone who's not going to be taking a pause anytime soon. It's fantastic to speak to you on where to from here. Your insights on hospitality and travel are just really helpful, particularly sitting here in Australia right now. I really hope we get to share a cocktail soon in London or Sydney, wherever we can both meet up. But thank you so much for your time and good luck with everything in London.
Thanks for having me. I wish I could come back to Australia. I promise I won't infect anyone if you let me in. But in the meantime, you're all welcome to come here to London and have a good old drink at the back of the Goring. And it's a privilege to be on your show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That bar of yours is one of my absolute favourites. It's so intimate and gorgeous.
Good for a breakfast cocktail.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy.
All the best.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.